Hurricane Fiona strengthening as it sets its sights on another batch of islands. But as the Category 3 storm moves past Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, the damage it has left is devastating. Look at those images. In Puerto Rico, at least 2 people are dead this morning. After most of the power on the island is out, it could be days before it's restored.
We're looking for gasoline, water, ice, all the supplies necessary for getting through this. We were hoping it wouldn't be so big, but well, it was bigger than we expected, and you have to make do with what you have.
I've been through this before. Rescuers have saved more than 1,000 people from the floodwaters. As much as 30 inches of rain fell on the island. It's like 2.5 feet. Rescue efforts are still ongoing as crews try to get to people in more hard-to-reach areas. All this comes 5 years, if you could believe it, to the day after Hurricane Maria made landfall on the U.S. island. Many people who lived through that catastrophe fear the fallout, the aftermath from Fiona could be worse. Now, Turks and Caicos, possibly next in the storm's path. The first major hurricane of the year, expected to become a Category 4 by tomorrow.
Let's bring in our CNN meteorologist, Chad Myers. Chad, where is this? Well, we see where the storm is headed, but what is it bringing?
Well, it just really went right over Grand Turk. Now, that's not Grace Bay and Providenciales, as you would know. That's the next kind of set of islands over. But we do know that there's already been damage on South Caicos and also East Caicos. I've been watching some videos out of some of these resorts along Grace Bay, and so far, so good. They're really getting winds of 50 to 60. They can handle that. Even the Hurricane Hunter in it right now, finding wind speeds of about 103. And 103 to 115, I know that's not that big of a difference, but maybe it means roof or no roof left. So we are going to see this continue to gather strength. 140-mile-per-hour storm by tomorrow, and we're still going to see some rain showers across parts of Puerto Rico. The problem with this storm is that it was moving at 8 miles per hour, and that's how you got so much flooding. That's how you got 32 inches of rain in Ponce. That is the bottom 10% of how fast storms should be moving away. It just didn't want to move away. It just continued to want to rain. A little bit of rain today, maybe an inch or two, but this has now moved away from Puerto Rico, even really moving away from the Dominican Republic. Not seeing a lot of rain on the south side of the DR, but there's the storm right now, not seeing a really defined eye, and that's good. That means it's not gaining rapid intensification. But here's what's going to go on. We are going to get a storm surge on the Caicos. We are going to get this to move on up toward the north, and maybe even toward Bermuda. You're in the cone Bermuda, but not in the middle of it. And here's what I don't like. The models are indicating a left turn into Atlantic Canada. But we know what happened with a different storm a few years ago that made a left turn.
Yeah.
We don't like left turns.
Yeah. Chad Myers, I think you're talking about Sandy there.
I didn't want to mention it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. The bad memories. Thanks so much. We'll be watching closely. We know you will. All right, joining me now from Puerto Rico is Sergio Marswatch. He is the policy director for the Center for a New Economy. It's a nonprofit think tank that recently completed an analysis of the state of Puerto Rico's electric grid. Full disclosure, Sergio and we went to college together. Sergio, it's good to talk to you this morning.
Jim, good to see you, and thank you for having me.
You've been deep on this issue of Puerto Rico's recovery from Maria, but also just its broader economic recovery. I want to start by asking, how are people doing there right now? Well, what is the situation today, and does it compare to what we saw 5 years ago?
Well, the first thing we have to remember is that the damage of this caused by any storm is not only a function of the strength of the storm, but also how prepared you are, how vulnerable is the population. And unfortunately, we were not in the strongest position to weather this storm. Right now, we have like around 80% of the population without electricity, around 65% without water, 25% don't have cell phone service, approximately 2,000 people in shelters, and we have gotten over 30 inches of rain in some areas, as you reported. So there's widespread flooding, a lot of damage to roads, bridges, commercial infrastructure, and homes. So we have our work cut out for us. Relative to Maria, though, the fact that we're having this conversation is proof that, or evidence that we have done some things right. Back then, for example, nobody had access to cell phone or internet, so we did some things right. But we do have a lot of work in front of us.
You have said that the power grid in Puerto Rico, you've described it as functional but fragile. And I wonder, are we seeing that here, that this storm, that the repairs done in the wake of Maria were not sufficient to prevent folks losing power again?
Yes, definitely. What happened after Maria is that we finished the emergency repairs, which took about a year, by the way. They were finalized around August 2018, and then on the second stage of the process, which is when actually we start thinking about making the grid more resilient and strengthening it. We have a lot of ideas, and we have had a lot of discussions with FEMA, but very little progress made due to several different reasons. But the fact is that the grid has a lot of patches, and that's what we're seeing right now. It hasn't been strengthened or made more resilient since Maria.
We had a former state senator on last hour who said that of the $10 billion or so given to Puerto Rico post Maria, that only about 40 million of 10 billion has been spent so far. He blamed red tape and said a lot of that burden falls on Puerto Rico. And I wonder if you agree with that. Why hasn't more of that aid been spent to help prevent these kinds of consequences?
Yeah, that's a number that has been spent on what FEMA calls, permanent works, long-term projects to strengthen the grid. And I think there's a lot of blame to go around. Part of it is on FEMA, part of it is on Puerto Rico, part of it is on different bidders.
Yeah.
And also there's a lack of agreement as to how to precisely rebuild the grid to make it more resilient. There's a big debate, and this is happening not only in Puerto Rico but also everywhere between renewables and natural gas. The fossil fuels lobby is very strong everywhere, so it's not a surprise that we're facing a lot of pressure just to rebuild the way as opposed to make the system more resilient while taking into account climate change.
What do folks need most right now? I'm sure that a lot of folks watching our air now are seeing people in need. What's most urgent?
Well, most urgent is to get water, food, and any medical treatment to people that are living in isolated communities. We need to work on debris removal, open roads, make sure that it's safe to move around the island, finish any emergency rescue operations that need to be finished. As you saw from those visuals, there's a lot of flooding still in the island. We're expecting some more rain soon. So those are top of mind right now to me. In terms of what needs to be done immediately.
Sergio Marzuach, we appreciate the work you're doing in Puerto Rico. We wish you and we wish the people there the very best.